Hi everyone, this is Mason Winfield with another installment of Psi-Friday with Mason. This week we are talking about Lovecraft Country, Part 1. You know, the United States probably has three classic, prominent horror writers that stand out as like the gods of horror literature. We start with Poe, Edgar Allan Poe. We probably move up to a certain candidate I'll be talking about in a minute. And I would say the father of contemporary horror would have to be Stephen King. But the middle guy, the bridge between Poe and Stephen King, is H.P. Lovecraft. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, born 1890, died 1937. He's associated with Providence, Rhode Island. But what a lot of people don't know is he had a major league connection to my home region, Western New York. Lovecraft is known for a unique, peculiar style of horror that he invented. And he almost never writes anything that breaks out of the basic pattern. But the basic pattern is so good that, and he writes it so well, that he's beloved to this day. The basic pattern of Lovecraft is this, that somewhere in the universe, there are these ranks of evil beings that are godlike. They're not material, they're way beyond that. And in a war that happened with slightly stronger powers eons before humanity was created, these evil beings were thrust out of physical existence, but they're dying to get back in. They're dying to get back to the world. And they operate through surrogates to try to invite them into the world under sufficient circumstances when they can take over. They are absolutely predatory and pitiless. H.P. Lovecraft was the horror god of my junior high school years. I read Lovecraft like crazy, read everything, read some of it several times. I think my favorite story by Lovecraft is The Rats in the Walls. It's a story about an American who inherits long time since I've read it, but he inherits a British mansion, and there are layers of depth beneath it and hidden passages, and it's just very cool, The Rats in the Walls. It's not as developed as some of his other stories. But a lot of people wouldn't realize that Lovecraft's connection to Western New York was pretty dramatic. His family has a long history in Rochester. Lovecraft's grandfather may have alighted in Rochester around 1831, which was basically the canal days. And several generations of Lovecraft's ancestors, relatives, lived in Rochester. And when you look at Lovecraft's descendants, you don't see a lot of dummies. You see doctors, successful businessmen, woodworkers. But then you also see infant mortality. You see loveless marriages. You see untimely deaths. You see insanity. You see sickness. This guy probably didn't grow up with a ton of hope. And Lovecraft was an only child and unusual looking fellow. Lovecraft's collection of baddies, the evil gods, are often nicknamed the Cthulhu mythos because he gives these demons these almost unpronounceable names. And the chief figure among them is a character he calls Cthulhu. And Cthulhu is depicted as like this, basically a King Kong with an octopus for a face, you know? It's like you put an octopus on top of King Kong's head and there we go. And Cthulhu is only one of this pantheon of demons. I remember he's got one name that stands out is Tsathoggua. He's got this beastie. I don't remember what it's supposed to look like, but I got up to use the men's room last night and stubbed my toe on something, and I'm sure I yelled out Tsathoggua or something like that. But Cthulhu and all of these beings, they have these forms of nasty, giant but nasty things like worms and all that. And there's even a T-shirt out there called Cthulhu Tequila. And it's got a picture of like this bottle of tequila with this giant worm coming out and biting somebody. And the caption is, "This time the worm eats you." I mean, there's been endless humor associated with Lovecraft, but also a sincere cult of love for him. Go to a horror conference someday and you'll see it. I think when we come back to our next episode, we will pursue Lovecraft's very queer connections to Western New York. Until then, happy holiday season, the beginning of it, and we'll see you next week for the next installment of Psi-Friday with Mason and Lovecraft Country, Part 2.